Hi, I'm David Alemian, and welcome to another edition of the Alemian File. Do you have money put aside for an emergency? If you were unable to work for a period of time, do you have money to pay your mortgage and put food on the table? How many months of living expenses could you quickly put your hands on? If you are thinking that you could always raid your 401k, think again. Yes, you would have to pay a 10% IRS penalty on the money and pay tax on that money. And let's say, for the sake of this conversation, that you're okay with that. So, what's the problem? The problem is the amount of time it can take to access your money. What most people do not know is that it's a very common practice for mutual fund companies to put up every roadblock imaginable to keep you from withdrawing your money. The problem is so widespread, there is even an industry term for it. They call it their conservation efforts. I have a friend who left his job to go into business for himself. He had his 401k money in 3 different mutual funds. These are big name mutual funds, the same names that you see advertising on TV all the time. This man wanted to roll over his 401k money into an IRA, so he contacted all 3 mutual fund companies. None of them would just release the money. Each company had their own special internal forms that he needed to sign before they would release the money. So he asked them to just email him the forms so he could sign them and send them in. They told him they could not email the forms. They had to be sent by regular U.S. mail, snail mail. There was no personal information on these forms. They were just blank forms. It makes one wonder why they couldn't just email the forms. So he waited 2 weeks for the forms, and they didn't come. He called again and asked them to send him the forms again. He then waited another 2 weeks, and again the forms did not come. After about a month and a half, 2 of the companies sent the forms. These were not simple forms. They were complex forms that take time to fill out. The forms also needed to be signed by his wife and notarized. That means both he and his wife had to take the time to take the forms to a notary public and sign them in front of the notary. The companies also required forms from his past place of employment. As of this writing, the company with the most well-known name still hasn't sent the forms. This process started back in the beginning of May. It's now the 3rd week of August. I asked him, what would have happened if you needed this money for a financial emergency so that you could, say, pay your mortgage? He quickly responded that he would have lost his house. Fortunately, that's not the case, but it taught him a very valuable lesson that I'm sharing with you today. This man will eventually get his money and he will put it into insurance company products. He'll never have this problem again. If you have questions or comments, send an email to david@thealemianfile.com. Visit my website, www.capitalcrestfinancialgroup.com, and absolutely make sure you come back here next week for another edition of The Alemian File. I'm David Alemian. Thank you for watching.